Predator attacks have begun in Yellowstone, but this time it's not the wolves. They thought the worst thing about Yellowstone was the freezing cold and the geysers until a beast showed up. One that started attacking tourists. January 2020, Yellowstone, empty, cold, and silent. A woman used to skiing along the snowy Grand Loop Road makes another round when she suddenly hears the crunch of snow behind her. She turns and sees a coyote leap out from behind a snow drift. It charges straight at her, knocks her down, and sinks its teeth into her head and arms. No one really understood why the animal attacked, as coyotes in Yellowstone don't fear the cold, don't fear cougars, but they should fear people. This one didn't. Was it waiting for an easier target? With deep lacerations and puncture wounds on her head and arms, the woman was rushed to the hospital. She was lucky, but it could have ended much worse. After that, people in the park started saying that if coyotes no longer fear humans, maybe it's time for something to appear in Yellowstone that they will fear. Ugly coyote. Just an unobtrusive reminder to do that thing under the video. The skier's case wasn't the first. Coyote attacks in Yellowstone have been happening for years. People just rarely talk about them. One of those incidents happened right on a ski trail where the predator was waiting by the track as if deliberately choosing the moment when a person would come close enough. It leapt up and bit the victim's face. Same behavior, same speed. Another time, a coyote attacked a child left in a stroller by the front door. The only thing that saved the baby was a thick winter suit, but scars on the face remained. Every case showed the same pattern. A fearless leap, blows to the head, a short distance. According to research, between 1960 and 2006, there were 142 coyote attacks on humans recorded in the US and Canada, injuring 159 people. And although those numbers don't seem high, what matters is that most attacks happen where the animals had already grown used to humans. These aren't coincidences. It's a slow loss of fear. Yellowstone has long been a place where weakness is punished instantly. There's a simple rule here. Whoever adapts faster survives. Coyotes have realized that better than anyone. Their behavior resembles a system where every level of survival unlocks new opportunities. On the first level, rodents and small birds. On the second, newborn calves and fawns. In winter, when life weakens, coyotes move up a level. They hunt young ungulates and sometimes even adult elk. That's their inner logic to expand the list of prey until they run into someone stronger. But in Yellowstone, there are almost none left. Over time, coyotes began stealing kills from cougars and even grizzlies, testing the limits of what's possible. And with each encounter, those limits shift. In this ecosystem, fear is a resource. When it's gone, only aggression remains. Coyotes carry dozens of infections, but the real danger isn't disease. It's that they've started to see humans as part of the food chain. At first, they just appeared by the roads, then began coming closer, testing reactions. Tourists leave trash, feed them, and the system accepts a new rule. A human equals a food source. And once a predator crosses that line, there's no going back. In Yellowstone, instinct makes the rules. When a coyote stops running, it becomes a threat. And rangers only have one option: elimination. It's not punishment, it's a correction of balance that the park must maintain. In Yellowstone's ecosystem, coyotes have long played the role once held by wolves and cougars. When the large predators vanished, the system didn't collapse. It simply rearranged itself. The empty spot in the food chain was taken by those who adapt the fastest. Coyotes have no weak spots. They live alone or in packs, hunt in forests, valleys, even in thermal zones where most animals can't survive. Their range spans all of North America from cities to deserts. For them, any habitat is just another level. And every change in climate or prey numbers just a new task to solve. Attempts to wipe them out went on for decades. Poisons, traps, catches, aerial shootings, but coyotes turned every defeat into experience. Now, Yellowstone's coyote populations have grown and changed. These animals are larger and more aggressive than most of their kin. Some reach 40 pounds and live longer than they should biologically. They've passed every test the system could offer. Yellowstone became their arena, and now the balance is tilted again. When a species becomes too successful, the ecosystem responds. A new player will soon appear on the map, one far more dangerous by design. In Yellowstone's ecosystem logic, this newcomer looks like a system error, a creature built not just to survive, but to fight. The honeybigger is a compact combat unit engineered by nature as a shock trooper. Its weight is from 13 to 31 pounds, shoulder height under 12 inches. But behind those numbers hides a predator that can attack almost anything. Its claws, 1.6 in long, work like cutting blades. Its teeth can crack a tortoise shell, and its body is protected by thick elastic skin with shifting muscles underneath. In battle, the honeybigger literally slides inside its own skin, twisting out of grips and biting back. It's not defense, it's a counterattack wired into its instincts. It has a large brain for its size and a level of intelligence rare in nature. Honey badgers can use objects, stones, sticks, even trash. Whatever they can grab becomes a means to an end. They've been seen unlocking gates, escaping enclosures, and working together. They understand a task and achieve it. Evolution gave them another bonus, chemical defense. Two glands at the base of the tail release a sharp, foul cloud when the animal feels threatened. It's a biological grenade that drives most enemies away for good. The honeybigger doesn't look dangerous until the fight starts, but once it does, it stops being just an animal and becomes a weapon of destruction. For Yellowstone, that's both a potential glitch and a perfect weapon against those who no longer fear anything. Snakes, even venomous ones, are an excellent source of meat for honey badgers, making up about a quarter of their diet. So, it's no surprise they have few natural enemies. Although leopards, lions, and hyenas sometimes try attacking them. But this isn't one of those cases where you can just go and gobble up an animal smaller than you because the honeybigger fights back till the very end. So, in the end, predators usually prefer to leave it alone and go after someone a bit meatier and easier to deal with. All in all, by every measure, the honeybigger seems like the perfect candidate to bully another predator. It's clear that the coyote is an animal native only to North America and there it fills the same niche as jackals do. You know jackals, right? Wild dogs that live in Africa and Eurasia. The main difference is their size. Coyotes are a bit bigger. Honey badgers don't live in North America and have never met coyotes in the wild, but their behavior toward coyote-like species gives us a good model of what would happen if they did. They don't attack to eat. They just need to prove who's boss here. If a jackal gets too close to the water or to a prey, the honeybigger attacks right away. So, if you imagine them in Yellowstone, the outcome seems almost obvious. The honeybigger won't wait to be provoked. It would be the one testing the opponent. Couple of years ago, a photographer captured this in a series of photos. A honeybigger chasing a jackal just because the jackal got a little too close. That's it. It violated the badger's personal space at the watering hole. The badger was in a bad mood and thought, all right, this guy's asking for it, and it got what was coming to it. Judging by the jackal's face, it reconsidered all its life choices and decided it had drink next time. In another photo series, 15 jackals approach a giraffe carcass after the lions are done. The honeybigger walks straight into the circle without hesitation and stands alone against the group. Every attempt to push it away ends the same way. It turns around and drives the jackals off until the whole pack retreats. It's not about hunting. It's about controlling a food source. And that pattern is important for Yellowstone, too. Coyotes have the same kind of spots, carcasses, and hunting areas. Honey badgers eat almost anything. Insects, rodents, reptiles, carrion. They can take down small hoofed animals and aren't afraid of venomous snakes. But dogs are off the menu. Jackals aren't prey. The conflict with them is all about competition and keeping them away from food sources. So, it's unlikely that a honeybigger, which suddenly found itself in Yellowstone, would start killing coyotes left and right for lunch. One animal's influence over another isn't just about predation. The honeybigger could compete with coyotes for food and pose a threat to young, inexperienced individuals, especially during the first few years before they realize who they're dealing with. This means that honey badgers can actually keep coyotes in check, i.e. reduce their presence in the park. Coyotes will become less bold and the damage they cause will decrease. Even without direct attacks, the effect would be enormous. But in Yellowstone, that's not enough. Only those who can handle real predators survive here and those who can deal with all the local dangers. And there are plenty. The park's home to wolves. Several dozen animals divided into packs. Their strength lies in numbers and coordination. The honeybigger doesn't have a pack, but it makes up for it. It can hold its ground even when outnumbered. There are cases when two honeybaggers were defending a carcass for 10 minutes against a pack of African wild dogs. And in the end, they stayed while the pack left. That's important for Yellowstone, too. Near carcasses or hunting routes, the one who doesn't back down under pressure wins. African wild dogs specialize in hunting hoofed animals. Their main advantage is endurance and group hunting. They simply wear their prey down before killing it. Their main rivals are lions and spotted hyenas. And yes, wild dogs are very good hunters. Much depends on the prey, vegetation, and pack size, but often over 60% of their chases end in a kill. Sometimes even 90%. You see where I'm going with this? Even hunters this skillful usually prefer not to mess with honey badgers. And if they do attack, they quickly back off. And it's understandable. Honey badgers are nasty. And there's not much meat on them anyway. Sure, the pack could kill one, but it wastes too much energy. And for what? A dozen bites and a few pounds of meat? Not worth it. In North America, there's a similar dynamic between wolves and wolverines. Within their home turf, wolves regularly take out smaller but bold rivals like wolverines. Sometimes not even for food, but just to eliminate competition over a carcass. Still, direct clashes can go either way. Sometimes wolves retreat after meeting tough resistance. The takeaway for Yellowstone is simple. If honey badgers ever appear in the system, they won't become the apex predators, but they'll constantly meddle at key points, and that'll change the behavior of both wolves and coyotes. The key thing is, wolves are some of the most skilled and strategic hunters in the wild. They often rely on numbers, and survive thanks to the pack. Still, I've come across cases where wolves attacked wolverines, got smacked around, and ended up with nothing. So, it's fair to assume that wolves might kill honey badgers if they were brought to Yellowstone. But the honey badger is a different level of badass. Even wolves might decide it's better not to mess with one. Can't really blame them. Which means that if a honeybigger can survive in Africa surrounded by lions, cheetahs, wild dogs, and all kinds of predators, it'll definitely survive in North America. By the way, I almost forgot. What about the climate? Honey badgers live in sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East and India. They're incredibly tough and resilient creatures able to adapt to almost anything. They can live anywhere, tropical forests, savas, mountains, though they do need a large territory, at least 190 square miles. So, in Yellowstone's warm season, they shouldn't have any problems. But in winter, temperatures in the park range from 19 to 0.4 degree F. And the higher you go, the colder it gets. Once it even dropped to minus 65 degrees Fahrenheit, and of course there's snow. Are honey badgers ready for that kind of weather? Honestly, I'm not sure I would be, but I'm not a honey badger. And they've been spotted at 8,500 feet in Morocco's High Atlas and at 13,000 feet in Ethiopia's Bale Mountains. Temperatures there also drop below freezing and they're fine with it. So, Yellowstone shouldn't be a problem. But wait, we're forgetting about bears. Yellowstone has two species, grizzlies and black bears. There are more black bears. On the other hand, Africa has no bears at all. So, we have to go back to wolverines for a comparison. How do they handle bears? There's a case, for example, of a grizzly female with 3 cubs calmly feeding in the Teton wilderness when suddenly 13 wolverines appear on the slope. They actually chase the bears away. Spotting even one wolverine's a rare event. Seeing 13 is almost a miracle. The bears didn't think so, though, and had to run for it. Later, biologists suggested that the wolverines had gathered in that area to feed on army cutworm moth larvae, the same ones the bears were eating. So, it basically turned into a war for caterpillars. Another theory says that there was just a lot of carrying around, which drew the wolverines in, and the bears just got in the way. Either way, that leads me to believe that a group of honey badgers, and they would be released in groups, could easily scare even a grizzly. On the other hand, in 2002, scientists tracking a wolverine noticed that its radio collar had started sending out a mortality signal. That happens when the animal hasn't moved for several hours. Later, they found the wolverine's body, and all the evidence pointed to a bear as the killer. Nearby lay a moose carcass and other clues suggesting that the wolverine had tried to steal it from the bear and paid the price. This case proved that wolverines are fierce enough to fight a predator 10 times their size. The moose, by the way, wasn't killed by either of them. It had simply frozen to death. And later, the bear discovered that ready-made meat popsicle. So, yeah, it's a bit complicated. In a one-on-one fight, honeybigger versus bear, I'd still bet on the bear. Even a black bear, not necessarily a grizzly. But if honey badgers ever decided to team up, which is totally possible in a new environment, then nothing would stop them. Even bears would run for their lives. But what about the wolverines? That battle would be legendary. Let's go step by step. The wolverine is a mid-sized predator from the mustids family. Basically a distant cousin of the honeybigger. It's active all year round in cold, snowy places because it's perfectly adapted to them, and it can be found across large parts of Yellowstone. But who would win? A wolverine or a honeybigger? Tough call. They both look like angry, shaggy fur hats. But in reality, they're walking survival machines. Claws, teeth, skin, attitude. Everything about them is made for fighting. Neither knows what fear is. The wolverine, of course, is bigger. Males weigh around 24 to 40 pounds, while the honeybigger usually weighs less. I've mentioned that already, but the honey badger is like a tank on short legs. Its skin isn't just thick, but loose. Try to bite it, and it'll twist around and bite you right in the face. I've said that before, too, but whatever. I love honey badgers, and I'm not ashamed of it. In a fight, the wolverine charges head-on. Hit, lunge, hit again. The honey badger, though, is a strategist. It goes for weak spots, eyes, ears, genitals. Yep, right there. That's not random. It's a strategy refined over centuries. So, the wolverine is stronger, but the honey badger is tougher. You can hurt it, but killing it is damn hard. And they're both crazy. Wolverines fight wolves. Honeybaggers fight lions. Small, mean, stubborn. These animals don't go looking for trouble, they are the trouble. Still, a one-on-one showdown could go either way depending on the conditions. Maybe the wolverine wins with brute strength. Maybe the honeybigger outsmarts it. Either way, that's a fight I'd love to see. Only thing is, it'll probably never happen. Even if we brought a bunch of honey badgers to Yellowstone, wolverines are among the rarest and most elusive creatures in the entire park. It's estimated that fewer than 10 of them live across nearly 3.5 million square miles. In 2009, scientists even made a map showing the home ranges of 5 wolverines. Where are the rest? Do they even exist? Nobody knows. So yeah, with this in mind, wolverines and honey badgers are unlikely to ever cross paths. But there's another interesting thing. Among animal lovers, the honeybigger is a real celebrity. Videos about them rack up millions of views, and the Guinness World Records even named it the world's most fearless animal. People love honey badgers. And if you think about it, that could actually be good for the park. When wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone in 1995, tourism literally exploded. People started coming just to see them in the wild. Sounds like a small thing, but the increase was 3.5 to 4%. Given that Yellowstone gets about 3 million visitors a year, that small boost was actually massive. 10 years later, in 2005, over 100,000 tourists came just for the wolves. They brought $30 million to the local economy. And that's not just money. It's jobs, housing, food, transport. The entire infrastructure came to life thanks to the animals. Scientists describe these people as real fans willing to travel thousands of miles, stand in the cold with binoculars, and simply be near the wolves. Before it was mostly activists and wildlife advocates. You could spot them by the bumper stickers and Wolfpack t-shirts. Now it's different. Ordinary people come too. Families, tourists, just anyone curious to see a wild predator in its natural habitat. Would you go? Write in the comments. And if you've been there already, share your story. Meanwhile, the wolves' impact just keeps growing. In 2021, wolf watching alone brought more than $82 million to small towns like Gardner, home to only 744 people. That's over twice as much as 15 years earlier. Now imagine adding honey badgers, already internet celebrities. I can't even begin to calculate how much money Yellowstone and everyone connected to it would make. Of course, bringing in non-native animals just for profit is a questionable idea. Sure, the tourists would come, the money would flow, but you know how easily the balance of nature can tip if you throw in someone new. Any interference has a cost, and it's almost always higher than it seems. Still, the money earned could go toward reducing conflicts between humans and coyotes. For example, installing more sealed garbage bins so animals aren't drawn by the smell of food from tourists. The fewer chances coyotes have to scavenge trash, the less they get used to people. That always works. As for the honeybigger, it's almost impossible to predict exactly how it might change things in Yellowstone. The consequences would be unpredictable. The honeybigger could take someone else's niche, push out local predators, and start eating creatures no one ever touched before. In short, it's not a great idea, especially since even if honey badgers start killing coyotes, there might only end up being more coyotes. People have been trying to get rid of them for almost 2 centuries. Poison, traps, shooting from planes. Nothing worked. Years went by and coyotes are still running across the continent as if they never even noticed all those attempts. Remember how I said that humans nearly wiped out wolves, but coyotes survived? They're still thriving. For that, we can thank evolution and the coyote's factory settings. Normally, a female has about 6 pups, but that number can range anywhere from 2 to 19. You heard right, up to 19. And here's the trick. Coyotes seem to be able to count. When there are too many of them, each litter gets smaller. But once humans start wiping them out, everything changes. Suddenly, the females breed like crazy to make up for the losses. If an adult female in the pack dies, young ones quickly take her place. Sometimes they're just 10 months old, but already ready to reproduce. Anything to keep the species alive. Thank you, evolution. Seems like nothing can harm the species. The more people destroy coyotes, the faster they bounce back. And if honey badgers join the culling, the result will be the same. As for population control, well, wolves are already handling that. Back in the early 1900s, coyotes filled the gap left after wolves in Yellowstone were nearly wiped out. With the wolves gone, coyotes became the top dogs. They felt like masters, started hunting and honestly, that's the main takeaway here. Nature knows how to balance itself if we leave it alone. Sure, some people don't like coyotes. They think they're pests or harmful, but that's not a system error. That is the system, the natural order of things. In the late 80s, Yellowstone scientists decided to find out exactly what role coyotes play in the ecosystem. Back then, the park was one of the few places where these animals were almost untouched by humans. No trapping, no poisoning, no population control. Researchers tagged them with radio collars and observed where they went, what they ate, and how they behaved. Turns out coyotes performed several important functions. First, they regulate the numbers of small mammals, mice, ground squirrels, rabbits across the whole country from mountain parks to city outskirts. And that in turn affects literally everything. Fewer rodents mean fewer ticks, fewer disease outbreaks, fewer ruined roots and damaged vegetation. And secondly, coyotes don't mind scavenging. They clean up the area, recycling remains and returning nutrients to the soil. Nature doesn't have such a thing as waste. Everything has its purpose, and coyotes help make that happen. So, if you ever see a coyote in Yellowstone, in a field, or even near a town, don't rush to chase it away. Just look at it. This is an animal that can